Hello and welcome back. Cara's having a meltdown. But
we know that I get like this. This happens at least every time.
Welcome back to Utterly Unfiltered with Tash and Cara.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us again.
I was just having a meltdown myself because it's now getting dark outside. It's only like 6:40 in the evening, but it's dark out and now I want to go to bed.
What? You are joking.
It's 6:40 p.m.
I did think you were about to cry. You look like you might be on the verge of tears.
I am. Because it's dark. It's late. I'm tired now. And we've only recorded 2 episodes.
Well, we did start 4 hours late, but anyways, it was quite funny because this previous podcast we recorded was star signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was quite in depth and quite intense. But we were feeling great afterwards. We were like, that was great, like such a good discussion. We poured a tiny glass of wine each. Now I say it's not even a glass. Dad had it very quickly.
Yes. And now I'm dead.
And now she's dead.
I'm tired.
So that's
I want
fun.
to go to sleep.
But
and
that's
also
us, because we're doing Halloween episode.
We had a 30-minute gap between the last episode and this one.
No,
and
it
all just went whoosh. And now I am at the lowest of the lows. So Cara's going to lead this episode.
Okay, well we're going to pull you back out of that with
Yes.
a fun Halloween episode, which you have already declared that you don't like Halloween.
We're not doing the Halloween episode.
Okay.
We
are.
No, we're doing Who Am I?
Oh, should we just do Halloween?
No, we're doing that later.
Okay. Right.
Otherwise, if we do Halloween now, I'm going to be even less inclined to do anything else later.
Okay, right. We're resetting because Cara thought that we were doing a Halloween episode and Cara was wrong. I am Cara, by the way.
I am Cara.
I am third personing myself because that is the level we're at. So we are doing Who Am I Personality Edition.
Yes, we are.
But I don't know, maybe I think we should probably start with something a little more lighthearted before we go right into it.
Probably.
So can we talk about my upcoming cruise, please? I'm so excited.
Please.
Oh,
yes.
I'm so excited. Okay, right.
Tell us about it.
Shall I tell you my schedule?
Oh,
I have it here. Sorry guys. First cruise, first time for me.
I'm very excited for you.
My auntie is a seasonal cruise goer, so she is
Really?
yeah, she
loves
goes
cruise.
Oh my goodness. She's been to Hawaii, she's done Iceland, like it's insane.
God.
20-day countdown, how exciting. So I just can't wait for the whole vibe. And
Tell us where you're going.
I'm going for aunties and my cousin and my mum, and it's just gonna be awesome. Like it's gonna be such chaos. We start in Rome.
Lovely.
Mykonos.
I love Rome.
So we do a bit of Greece.
Mykonos.
Ooh. Izmir. Do you know where that is? Izmir?
No, that's Turkey, isn't it?
Could be, but then we go to Santorini afterwards, which is in Greece still. So I don't know why we. Oh yeah, that is Turkey.
You just dot over, I guess.
We must come back on ourselves.
Oh my god. Sorry, don't mind.
Tash just got really excited for me there.
Greece is massive. If you actually see it, it's not like the mainland isn't, but all the islands, it takes up a huge
It took
space.
us like 5 hours to get from mainland to one of the little islands.
Yeah.
Like, crazy. When I went before, but and then we do Naples and then Rome and it ends in Genoa. I keep telling everyone it ends in Pompeii and I'm so wrong. Why am I wrong?
Genoa. Is that in Italy? Why do I think Genoa is in
It is in
Switzerland?
Italy. It is in Italy, but it's on the. I feel like it's probably all close. But I am getting off day early because it's my friend's wedding. Yay! Shout out Jenny. She doesn't probably listen to this. Jenny reads more than podcasts. Good for you, Jenny. But yeah, no, I'm so excited. It's all inclusive, so you know. We're going to hit the cocktails hard, methinks.
Oh yes, that sounds
very,
good.
very excited.
Speaking of which, we have a glass of wine each right now.
We do. Are you going to sip yours or are you going to keep gulping?
I know, I did drink a fair bit just now. I was thirsty.
No, I don't blame you. I feel like, you know what, why not?
Why
not?
Why not?
Whoa.
Well, I was telling Cara, I've been on my Aldi wine hype at the moment. They have such good wine in Aldi, honestly.
They do. And gin and Pims, fake Pims. I feel like anything with a fancy label, right, is going to be good. Because we are so judge a book by its cover.
Oh yeah, massively. Well, when we went and got
human.
wine in the supermarket earlier, I was like, this one looks pretty.
What's your plaster I keep wanting to
Oh my god, I keep meaning to take it off. I just got my flu jab.
Like when? 4 weeks ago?
No, literally yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, not very exciting. But
I need to get mine. Anyways, we digress. So this is Who Am I? And I feel like we should just go straight into it because it's going to be a meaty one.
I think it's going to be a long one.
So shall I start then?
Yes,
Seeing as
go
I'm supposedly, you are trusting me with a big responsibility here. Tash normally leads. I follow. I'm a sheep. Oh, that was cute. I'm not going to try it. It's going to sound awful. I'm going to sound like there's something wrong with me. Okay, so we did this 16 personalities free personality quiz.
It's called the Myer Briggs personality test.
Oh, is this what that is? This is Myer Briggs. Didn't even
yeah.
know that. Cool. Okay, so this won't mean anything to anyone unless you know about it. ENFJ, protagonist, which stands for...
Wait, say that one again. What are you? An ENFJ?
Correct.
ENFJ, okay, cool.
Well, it says ENFJ, but it's...
Is that what I just said?
No, that's what it says.
Alright.
For me, but it says extroverted E. Then intuitive?
I think it's because they use the N because the I is already taken with introvert.
Oh, okay, thank you. Extroverted, yes, check, on first glance, yep. Intuitive, try to be, but I often ignore my intuition.
I think sometimes the meanings of the words are like slightly different from like what we know them to be. Because like the whole like thinking, feeling, judging thing, like it's not actually like black and white, it's more like... So I think maybe intuitive, well when you have a read you'll see, but...
But yeah, no, I like to think I am. Feeling and judging. Okay, so...
Feeling, judging, cool.
This is what I do, apparently. You can confirm or deny, because
yes,
we were talking a bit earlier about, I think it was off this podcast, I think we were talking about like how... No, we actually addressed it directly about how we see ourselves versus how other people see us and the blind spots that we have. So yeah, feel free to call me on this. I am warm and help others. Yes,
definitely.
No? Okay.
100%.
Strong ideas and values, also bringing creative energy to my goals.
Creative energy for sure. What are your strong ideals and values? Do you know what they
strong
are?
Strong ideas and values. I think like I do have strong ideas and values. I'm very much like, would you say socialist? Like very much like for equal rights. Like,
yeah.
I will. The only time I'll ever debate a point to my death will be on like equal rights and yeah, I guess equality and equal access to healthcare and education and safety, and I suppose that's probably the most clear value that I have. All my other values tend to sort of like drift in and out. I think like depending on where I'm at in my life.
Yeah,
but that's probably
yeah. That's why I asked, because I was like, I'm interested because I don't know.
And justice.
Talk about that much,
I have a very strong sense of justice. Like even when people like speed, I'm looking at them being like, I hope you get caught.
It's wrong.
Sharon.
I agree.
It's with Sharon. I have nothing against Sharons. I don't know why I say Sharon. Anyways, I feel called to... This is so true. Right, this is crazy true.
Tell me.
I am called to serve a greater purpose in life.
Oh.
And I'm very idealistic. And
so what do you think the greater purpose is, if you don't mind sharing with the podcast? Obviously, it's totally up to you.
Well, I suppose I don't know if I know exactly. I think that's what I'm trying to figure out is what my purpose is, right? But I want to. Like, I want to have a purpose and I want to be able to do good for make positive change and do things that are good for people, humanity maybe. Although we were talking in the last podcast about how on the flip side, that can be quite overwhelming to think about. And there is this part of me that maybe likes the idea that actually there is no purpose and meaning and we are just here to live. Like that is actually kind of quite a nice idea for me, but I definitely verge naturally towards the opposite, which is thinking that I need to be doing something really fundamental.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I strive to do good and do the right thing. And apparently born leader. This is where I said...
Again, with the born leader, that is so similar. If you've listened to our Who Am I astrology version...
Yes,
you'll have heard this. That Cara, it was one thing in Cara's birth chart that she said that she's not yet experienced in her life, that she can see herself as someone who is inclined towards leadership.
Yeah.
And this one again, it's saying born leader.
Yeah.
But that's something that you don't identify with particularly?
Well, I thought about this, right? And I think it's because on the flip side, I don't love conflict. And then I said in my notes, I was like, thanks, Cancer. Because that's probably my Cancer in me. My what sign? My ascendant.
The ascendant, yeah.
Cancer. That is like, actually, no, I just want peace and love and like happiness. Don't shout at me. But I do think that I can see leadership qualities in me in other ways. Or I like to think that I could maybe influence people positively or inspire. Like I often like something that I find really, really gratifying, which again is probably an ego thing actually, or a pride thing. Probably doesn't come from a great place, but I find it like someone said to me not so long ago that like me doing music, because if I don't achieve anything significant with music, someone said to me the other day, they were like, oh, like you did your music, and then I've been thinking about my own, like, they're not giving me credit for what they did, because they shouldn't, it is on them. But they were saying, like, seeing that I did, like, took some time to do music, made them think, oh, maybe, like, I should take time to do something.
It's opened doors for them in their brain.
And everyone, like, there are people in my life that are what led me to do what I did, who I've seen doing living their best lives and making bold decisions and taking risks, and that inspired me. So I think, and art fosters art, and I think it's the same with, like, your sort of free will and doing things a little bit differently disseminates to other people, and it encourages them to maybe think about that path as well.
I definitely think that's so true.
Yes.
I always say, like, I've never influenced anybody by telling them what to do.
Yeah.
But I can see hundreds of evidences in my life where I have influenced somebody in a positive way.
For sure.
Now, that's not being egotistical. I just mean,
like,
we're talking about small things,
but
not
that's
like
a good
massive
thing.
things.
Yeah.
But influence people just by being in my lane, being true to what I believe in myself, and people seeing that and being like, I want to get in that lane as well. Like, I agree with you. I feel like you've given me the confidence to...
No ways. Don't attribute that to me. That's you.
That's
you.
I love that though. Your confidence to just like break out and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. Like, when Cara quit her job like 2 years ago, like, you know, I can imagine everybody was like, why?
Oh yeah, I had some raised
like,
eyebrows.
Yeah, like, why? And now I'm like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like,
Yeah.
why be miserable when you could be happy?
Yeah. Right? Fundamentally, right?
Doy.
Practicalities sometimes creep in there, but we just vibe. But no, and I think people have the power to do this for other people too. And I think this relates to something I was trying to get to the bottom of with your mum, actually, Tash's mum, who's just amazing. I will keep shouting about it. So is mine, because if my mum's listening, I love her very much. I know it's amazing.
I love you.
We have both. Stuck up. She loves you more than me, I think. So irritating, because you can cook and you don't drink all her alcohol like me. Anyways, but what is it called? We knew how to describe it, but it's all about being who you are authentically, and then allowing people to gravitate towards you, not going after them, and
just
and
like being
trying to
magnetic energy.
Magnetic, thank you. That makes so much sense. It's so logical. Why did I not think of that? But it's the same kind of thing. I think instead of telling people what to do, it's like leading by example, isn't it? So that's leading, right?
Yeah.
Leadership. That's maybe the only place that I could maybe see it is and I would not want to lead anyone, because I don't have any of my shits together.
Yeah.
But I guess in the positive ways of leading people to try and be more embracing of the fact that none of us have our shit together. I do very much try to do that now. It's really uncomfortable, but I suppose online is breaking down the pretense of looking like everything's perfect and fun and happy all the time on Instagram, because that is something that I think we all know consciously, that no one is having the best time of their lives all the time, but we still believe it when we look at that stuff. But I guess just trying to break down that wall and that actually there's real stuff happens to everyone.
I think it's really hard actually with social media, because people say obviously like social media is a highlight reel, and you know what you see isn't what's going on behind the scenes, and don't get too wrapped up in it. And I agree that there's some level of, yeah, okay, don't make it look like everything's perfect and amazing when it isn't. But part of me also thinks we would not record and share our worst moments, because in those moments we're not thinking of recording and sharing them.
True.
And I actually think it's the case for the highlight reel as well. I think that the best moments of our lives don't happen when a camera's there. Think about like the funny videos we recorded earlier. They were second takes of the funny thing that had happened previously. Like, you know, like we did the funny thing was said or yeah, some of them were. But the funny thing was said or done, and then the content is actually the second go of that.
True, but just to challenge that slightly, don't you think? So when I look at those videos, the parts that I love the most are the parts where we mess up. We were like, you know, where we're trying something and it's failing and we think we look ridiculous and we're laughing about it.
Yeah.
I prefer that part of myself.
Yeah.
That's not afraid to show the sort of like insecurities of, oh my gosh, I just did this stupid thing, as opposed to where we look cute and we're like,
perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
I personally, because it's breaking, again, it's that unfiltered. And that was the caption. Go watch it, guys. Thanks. Give us a little like. And there's a poll. Vote in the poll. It's basically, we drank wine and we danced, and it was trying to decide who's better at dancing. And basically it strongly alludes to Tash, because it just is, come on. Always. But anyways, yes, so going back to this. Okay, so what else do I do? So I try to help my loved ones grow into their best selves. I don't know. I think I just try and support people, which people do for me. So, and we should all do that. Guys, come on. Obviously, we're all trying to just get through life. Let's be nice. And champion each other. Cheerlead. Speaking up for what's right, so maybe it goes back to the sense of justice. But I apparently remain hopeful when faced with challenges. Sometimes I'm just really really pity partying though. I don't know if I'm always very able to be hopeful. But you try.
It's hard actually.
I think you have to practice being hopeful. Like gratitude. How crazy that you have to practice doing something that should come naturally but it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think you have to practice that positive mentality, like glass half full. I don't think it comes just like second nature to me.
For sure.
So I am genuinely caring, but I could push you too much to do what I think is right.
Oh.
So, fun fact, Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey are these personality types.
Wow, they're big leaders.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'd
also
take
they're
Oprah.
leaders, and you was questioning your leadership as well,
I know,
which is so
well,
interesting.
that's still, I could not be president of the United States. No.
Don't think you'd want to be.
I did a little summary for myself. I said that I resonate with most of this, actually. And it also matches my astrology chart like yours, because I'd read your notes that yours was like, you saw a lot of similarities. And then I put crazy with loads of Z's and Y's. And then I said, except the leader thing, but maybe it could be more indirectly. So we have touched on that. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. And do you know what I think? And I don't know if this relates to my actual, like, rising signs and ascendants and things. I love this, but I preferred the astrology because I like the more whimsical stuff. I always have. I've always romanticized life, probably why I write songs. Everything to me is like a little bit more nonsensical, and I prefer it that way. I prefer the more like creative thinking. So this was great, but it was pretty practical and it related to, so some people would love this because actually it relates to like what you actually could be like in the world.
Definitely.
I just love the whole like, ooh, my rising sign and my star sign and my Cancer. Like, I'm just that kind of person. I'm just a little like that. So.
That makes a lot of sense.
But I think they both serve purpose and value. And definitely for different people that maybe aren't as much into astrology and are more pragmatic. Personality test, Myer Briggs, do it.
100%. If you haven't done one already, you have to do one. Honestly, I have done this 3 times over the years. This is my 3rd time. First time changed.
Really?
First time was years ago when I first discovered it. I must have only been like 16 or 17.
Okay.
And I got an INFJ. And then I did it during COVID. And I got an oh sorry, no.
What is
I got that wrong.
Oh.
So the first time I did it when I was a teenager, I got INFP.
Which means?
I'll let you know in a second.
Ooh, sorry.
The second time I got an INFJ, that was during lockdown. And now I'm an INFP again. So the P and the J, P is prospecting, that's adaptable and spontaneous. And J is judging, and it's like the opposite of that. It's more like secure and structured, I think. I'm presuming it makes a lot of sense that I wasn't very adaptable during a global pandemic. I probably was far more cautious.
Yeah.
And honestly, to know that I've gone back to who I was 10, 12 years ago is actually quite reassuring.
For sure.
It shows not only that I am like, that is actually who I am, but also that I've returned after the kind of trauma of COVID to my true self.
But doesn't that beg the question of like, how much of this is you and how much of it is influenced by what you're currently experiencing in your environment? Well, like it's context, it's your own place. It's hard to take that out of the equation.
I agree, and I think when you think about the questions that you're asked during these tests, you are asked questions like, you know, I prefer to be in social environments and not in social environments or whatever. Well,
global pandemic, you probably preferred not to be, unless you were in Downing Street, in which case you were having a great time. But I won't go into politics, so
that's great.
That's verging on something maybe slightly controversial. Anyway,
yeah, I just love that. I love the fact that I actually went back to what I previously was. And I think that just shows like that is who I am. So anyway, I'm an INFP-T. And what that means is I'm introverted, which we've already discussed in the previous episode, or just in general, that is the truth. That's who I am. I am intuitive. And that comes across as like open-minded.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm feeling, so it's the F, which is empathetic. And then prospecting, which is like adaptable / spontaneous.
Yes.
Which I definitely think
very
that I
much
am.
so. Wow. Yeah.
And then the dash
I don't think you
T.
could like solo travel without being adaptable and spontaneous.
And honestly, a lot of the biggest decisions I've made in my life have been very like spur of the moment. I've been like, you know, I decided I was going to uni on results day when I got my results. I decided I was changing course.
So true, I remember.
And I just did it.
Yeah.
I decided I was taking a year out of uni, and I just did it like immediately.
Badass.
So I was going traveling. I left 2 weeks later. Decided I was moving to London. I left a month later, less than. I decided I was moving with my boyfriend. Moved in with him very quickly. Like, you know, I've always just been very like, once I get the feeling of something,
you stick
I
with
know
your,
it's right
you go
for
with your
me.
feeling. Yeah, you go with your gut.
You go with my gut.
Instinct.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
Which is the intuition, right?
For
That's
sure.
the intuitivity coming through.
and the spontaneous of just being like, I'm not happy here. I'm gonna see if I can be happy somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it. Is
Such
a real drive to not
Wow.
be in discomfort. Honestly, I think that's what it is. Like, I would say that you can say that like a lot of the big decisions I've made are like brave or cool or whatever. But a lot of it is just I was so not happy with my situation. I would do anything to get out of it. And that anything might look wild and spontaneous and cool to other people, but actually for me it was like
survival mechanism. Almost.
100%.
But when you break it down like that, that's actually it's such a great way to look at it. It's just like, I'm not happy. I want to do something to make me happier. Like that really should ultimately be the guiding force of everyone's decisions that they make. I know life is not always so easy, and we're fortunate that we can live based on happiness and not like other things. But still, I think it's a good way. That's a good compass to have. Like, does it just like remove all the other complications? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad?
Yeah.
Like if you can decide between the two, is this feeling a feeling of anxiety or is it a feeling of excitement? Apparently they're quite closely related.
And I think for me, like with the indecision that I have, like massively, I really struggle with like decision. It has to be like so spotlight clear that I have to leave a situation, and then it's like, well, that's my only option, so therefore, like whatever option I decide, that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I would be like, right, should I move to London or should I move back to Sheffield, which is where I went to uni? It would be like, that's too hard. It would be like, I don't like where I am now. This is where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay,
And I think like, anyways, back to the thing, but that's like where that spontaneous, and I definitely am adaptable. Like I make anywhere home. I think that comes from, we travelled all the time when I grew up. We moved country every 3 or 4 years. Like for me, like I can make this feels like my home. We're moving out of here in March, and it'll break my heart. I love it here. But I'll also adapt to the next place.
Yeah, and you will make that your home.
Exactly.
Do you think having travelled and lived other places has led to that adaptability?
Definitely.
Cause and effect,
yeah.
right? So that's...
You have to be adaptable.
Yeah, sure.
You can't mourn. You can't literally spend the first amount of time in a new place that you're living mourning your old place.
Right.
You have to be like, when you say goodbye, and you just move on.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been like that way always. I think you just learn that very, very quickly. And the last bit is mine's dash T, and that's turbulent. And I don't know why, because that's what I mean, turbulent doesn't make any sense in this, but basically it means success driven, but also self-conscious. Kind of random. And it's defined as a mediator. I think yours was a...
But your mediator was that's exactly what it said in your star chart, that you mediation.
It's honestly crazy to think, like, I think that there's so much of this report that's
they're identical, actually. The one is just using different language, like we talked about earlier, the language that I prefer and connect with, which is the more whimsical. But that is actually very similar. Yeah, all the themes are exactly the same. And it's not even just what it is saying, because people always say, like, okay, well, you know, if you could describe anybody as, you know, a lot of the world are open-minded or empathetic or whatever, but it's also what it's not saying is very specific as well. True, yeah. Like, and there's a lot of that involved too. So honestly, like, I think it's incredibly accurate. And I think like, even like I've got need, meaning and purpose, and that comes up in my birth chart as well. Like has to work towards a higher purpose. Yeah. Balancing idealism with practicality. Yeah. My birth chart spoke about idealism, self-aware. We've discussed like psychology and interest in human behaviour. Self-aware and about emotions, right? And not wanting to, and being really aware of how your emotions are presenting to other people. Good point as well with the moon in Aquarius. Yeah. Procrastinator. Yes. Oh yes. High expectations of others. That came up
like 3 or 4 times
we had a whole
in my
discussion
birth
about
chart.
this.
Yeah.
What?
And that's on here. Conflict avoidant, and I wrote in brackets peace, and that's like
Wow. Same
my
thing.
like mediator, which comes across my birth chart as a Libra. So much of it is similar, and I think it's so crazy. And honestly, like, again, we spoke about this before, but what's so relevant about these, in my opinion, is that you can just take from them what you want.
Yes.
And leave what doesn't serve you. And also who you are now might not be who you are in 10, 15 years time, and areas of it might apply or might not apply. But understanding and being like empathetic towards who you are as a person, it really helps when you can do a test like this and be like, oh, that's why I'm like this.
Yeah.
There are other people like me. Like you said about how on yours it says Barack Obama and
Yes. Who are yours? Did you remember them? Oh, homework.
Remember, yes.
Homework, because I'm curious. But can I ask a pretty interesting question? I think it's interesting. Well, I think the discussion could be interesting around it. Firstly, I do you think that you are who you are, or are you constantly changing and growing? Therefore, like you say, who you were in COVID is different now. Or, flip side, or maybe it's both, but the opposite would be, or another take on it would be, are you a constant and you never change, but your awareness grows about who you are and your insights, and you become more self-aware as you grow up?
Good question.
And that ultimately changes you anyway. Because where I'm coming from is like, I feel like I know who I am at the core, and I feel like that hasn't changed. Like if I ever want to know who I am and what I value and what I enjoy, I will think about who I was as a child, because I will still enjoy those same things. I will still have those personality traits that I feel like are my inner child. But I feel like it's only since breaking down the barriers and silencing the noise around me that I'm coming back to that.
Yeah.
Like that reconnecting with who I was, because I feel like that's, or maybe it's just who I want to continue to be, because I'm so happy because there was nothing, no stress. But I don't know. So part of it is like, do we change, or are we constant, but everything around us makes us change, or makes us mask, or makes us do whatever?
I think it's fascinating. I think that there's different aspects, because who we are can be defined both as like who we are internally, what we believe in, how we are when we're by ourselves, our personality traits, and also separately to that, who we are externally, what we like, what we don't like, what we talk about, who we hang out with, how we dress. Like those are two kind of, they are both who we are, but one's like very internal emotions and one's very external presenting.
Okay.
I know that in my life, the internal Tash, I feel like has stayed the same.
Okay.
But my comfort with who I can and can't be externally has changed. Because if I think, you said about like when you go think about when you were a child and you lean towards those activities that made you happy when you were a child and all these kinds of things, I love that. And I love that that's like something that you can like lean on because you knew that you could do those things. In my life, when I was a child, I didn't consider myself to be creative. I didn't consider myself to be sporty.
Okay.
And yet, as an adult, working out is a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And I love to paint. I love to design. Like
I'm literally admiring your painting that's sitting like directly
it's
behind you.
one of my favorite things to
cool.
do. Even when I do my own nails at home, and that's part of my nail art. I love to do makeup, and I have like love that. And I will always be somebody who wears makeup, like because I love the art of it. I love so much about. I love running. I literally am doing a half marathon next weekend. Like there's so much in my life that I hated when I was a kid. I was terrible. I could not do art.
Okay.
Was not creatively inclined at all. I didn't do any sports. I used to, drop out of PE. I never ran anywhere.
To all the PE
I did not go to
sessions.
PE. I would go to the textiles room instead.
Yeah.
Like
But that's artsy. That's creative.
I guess, yeah. But I just
that's a way to turn like something like skipping lessons into something positive.
No, textiles wasn't. I wanted to be creative. I took art and textiles, but I got good grades in them because I was good at taking tests and filling.
But is that self-belief though?
Not. Yeah, I think that's what I mean when I say
that's like breaking the barriers.
Yeah, it's like understanding like when you're an adult, you have full power over who you do and don't want to be, and you can choose to identify with labels people gave you in childhood, or you can choose to not.
Right.
And like part of me is like, well, I don't really care what some teacher said about my creative talent, or I don't really care about the fact that like I literally couldn't run like 2 meters as a child. I'm going to do it now because that was literally so many years ago. Like I'm not the same person. Like I don't. Why would I spend the rest of my life?
No, sure.
trying to fit into a box that was made for me when I was literally a child. Like,
absolutely true. But isn't it crazy how much that shit sticks with you though? Like, I remember comments that teachers have made. I have like sort of these things where I'm like, I want to do the opposite to prove them wrong kind of thing. So that's another thing about like personalities, where some people are, I feel like I've had this discussion in different contexts of like, you can be both, but I think either you're inspired to do better because you like, what's that? Oh, it's like either you're trying to achieve positive results or avoid negative results.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think I always used to think I was just trying to avoid negative. So for example, like getting good grades. I didn't ever strive to get like an AE or the best grade. I just wanted to get a grade that wasn't going to mean that it was disappointing for me to have that grade. So I was trying to avoid a negative reaction and emotion. Now, I think I haven't been satisfied with just doing something that's good enough to not be bad.
Yeah.
Now I want to do something that's great.
Yes.
I want to do something that's really positive.
Interesting.
So maybe that's definitely something that's changed.
Yeah, you've like picked up perfectionism over your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, it's something that has served me well in some situations. But it has not served me well in other situations.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a really hard thing to do, though, is to take a trait of yours and to try and just utilize it when you need it. Like, that's not easy to do. I'm not claiming that I know how to do that. I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
No.
That's part of the battle, I think, is you have your traits, you have your perspectives and your values, and it's trying to learn when they can serve you and when you need to put them to the side and let something else like come into play.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
But it's really impossible sometimes.
Yeah, definitely it is. And I think that does change over time. But I think, like, going back to the personality tests that we were talking about, like, I think that there's a difference. Think about the questions that you answered when you filled out that test. There's definitely a difference between what you want to answer and what you do answer.
So true. And I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what feeds into that whole discussion of, like, you know, is what changes? Is it you? Is your surroundings? Is it X? Is it Y? And I think, like, in the case of mine going from INFP to INFJ, you know, COVID was a long time, and also I really struggled during COVID. Like, I was scared of the world around me, and I was fearful. I wasn't a rebel that was going and partying and meeting up with people outside my bubble. Like, there was, like, limits to such things. Like, there were certain things that I was like, I'm willing for this.
Okay.
Not for this. But, like, in general, like, I was really nervous.
But it was quite contained still, right? Like,
and now I've had COVID 3 times. Like, I've just, you know, that just went out the window, like, immediately. But I literally moved to London, got COVID, like, the second week I was there. Shocked. Like, not surprising. But at the time, we were going through it all, like, I was really nervous. Everyone was really nervous. And so it makes sense. And I felt incredibly isolated. I isolated myself as well. But also, I'd been, you know, thrown out of my uni and had to travel, you know, 4 hours back to my parents. And at the time, the person I was dating was living on the other side of the world. And, like, you know, all my friends were all over the place and displaced. And you had your own bubble and your own family and your own stuff that you were going through. And, like, it was incredibly an isolating time. And so it makes sense that my answers to those questions at that point in time lent towards more cautious, more control, you know, less spontaneity, because it just wasn't who I felt like I was at that period of time. But my natural state is to be somebody who is spontaneous, and I know that that's true. And, like, if I looked back at that other test now and I, like, read the description, I know I wouldn't relate to that. Because as much as I love a calendar, and, you know, I like to be on places roughly on time, like, I definitely am not scared of the consequences of not changing or not doing something. You know what I mean?
You'll do the change, but you'll still probably do it very scheduled. Like,
yes, exactly.
And well thought out,
exactly. Like, when I went travelling, I did, you know, I decided within 2 weeks I was going, but I did have a scheduled plan of where I was going to be and when. Like, you know, it's like that kind of thing.
That's probably the best way to be there. Because you're still going to do stuff, but you're going to do it properly.
Exactly.
Like, awesome.
I want to make the most of the time.
Yeah. But when you said about doing the test, I have always struggled with those personality tests, because I will rate myself, but I am so aware. There are things that I know. Like, I know that I prefer being with people than being alone. I know that. But there are certain things where I just don't know about myself. And where actually someone else would need to come and be like, no, you do this, or you do seem to like this, or... Because I'm either still learning who I am. This is part of why I asked that question. I'm either still learning who I am, or I'm still forming who I am.
Yeah.
Depending if you believe that we are who we are and we have to learn ourselves, or that we actually have to make ourselves. Does that make sense? I don't know.
It does make sense. I do. And I actually don't know. I can't actually decide.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's partly it's learning what you want to be like and striving towards that, like that higher self, right? So you have your sort of inner child and then your higher self with manifestation talk. And maybe it's who you, like, I definitely think I rated myself a little bit of who I would like to be. Like that whole sort of, do you lead or do you follow? Like, I would like to be more in the leading. And that would be what sort of my other star charts and things would say. So maybe that's why I rated myself a bit higher. But actually, in reality, am I like that? And then also, can I even be able to comment on that? Because I do not have an objective viewpoint of myself. Because I just... That's why I shy away from those things, honestly. If it wasn't for this episode, I probably would be happy not to do... I know about the Myer Briggs, and I've been offered the opportunity to do it a few times with, like, professionals, but I've never wanted to because I'm like, I don't know what I want or like or who I am. Which is not necessarily true. There's some, like I said, that I did know, but there's a lot that I'm like, I think... How accurate then therefore is it?
I think this is what goes back to that whole thing of, like, these things are such useful tools in certain environments, but they're never going to form a full picture because humans are just so much more complicated than whatever you can put down to 16 questions, you know?
But they do prompt the discussions like this.
Exactly.
So that can only be probably a good thing.
And you've had that self-reflection that you were saying when you did the test, you were, like, thinking about the answers and, like, how does that relate to my life? And, like, that is, I mean, it's the same, we talk about with anything, like, honestly, that's the whole thing behind therapy. Like, people are scared of therapy, oh, I don't want to know what's going on in my brain. It's kind of up to you what you want to take and what you don't want to take from that environment.
True. You are still in control.
You're still in control of the situation. You can, you know, there is no negative to be had from getting a glimpse into the reasons why you think or behave in certain ways. I think, honestly, there's only positives from that. Doesn't mean that you have to then act in that certain way. Doesn't mean you have to change immediately. You know, don't turn your whole life upside down.
On that note, I would love to, and you can obviously decide whether how much or if you can take part in that discussion, but I'd love to talk a little bit about my, like, personal, like, therapy sessions that historical more so, like, maybe a couple of years ago. And what served me and what didn't. Because therapy, I think, has such a valuable place, but it did spin me out a little bit in other ways, because I did also then start thinking I had more issues than maybe I did. So, like, I definitely had to then therapize myself after my therapy to be like, okay, what was that? Like, is that an issue? Is it not? Like, I had to undo a little bit of work, and then also, but largely positive. So,
you're just untangling a web.
Basically.
And it's like you're trying to pull the thread, you want to know what's coming.
And they're trying to make sense of it. And also, hilariously, this was another meme I saw where it was like, when you're such a people pleaser that you just want your therapist to think they did a good job, so you just agree with them and tell them that
is that what you feel?
Partly.
Really?
For a lot of things.
Wow.
For a lot of things. Like, I was that one where I did my little work in between sessions, so I was really happy to do it. And then when we did this sort of, because you did those sort of pre-measures of where I was with, like, anxiety and things, and then we did the post-measures. And, like, I really wanted to be, like, for them to think they also did really well. Partly, and partly I wanted to think I've done really well. And actually, no, I had overall improved a lot, but a lot of it was, like, now I'm thinking, like, I've had to untangle how much of it was because I wanted that positive result. What was that? So, like, that's a whole separate thing, though, that we need to do.
I love that question, and I think that on the, like, therapy thing, and I was talking to someone else about this recently, this is where the quality of a really good therapist is important. Because in my head, I totally see where you're coming from when you say, you know, I want them to feel like I did a good job, they did a good job. Like, I want to create a positive outcome from this. I can imagine a lot of people feel that way. And I think the best thing is to have a therapist who can see through the bullshit.
Holy moly,
Because anyone can go in and say, yes, I've done this, I've done that. You know, I meditated every day for the last 7 days. You need a therapist who can see through your bullshit because they know enough about you and your tendencies to be able to think, can you clarify more about that? Can you tell me more? Did you, you know...
I was so proud, right? My therapist told me that he asked me if he could use me as a case study for like the work that he's done with me. I was so proud. That was my biggest win.
Yeah.
Which is so fundamentally messed up.
Yeah.
Because that should not have been my biggest win.
No,
My biggest win should be how I felt.
And honestly, even the fact that he's asking for a case study that's fascinating to me. Like, as someone who's like has been on both sides of therapy,
Right.
I think the concept of asking for a case study is very transactional, actually.
Yeah. Although, yes.
A review
Yeah.
that's honest that you put on their website, like as in like, for example, there's like a website called Harley Therapy and there's a lot of therapists on there, and you can review the therapist after you've been on there or whatever. Or some of them have Google reviews, for example, some of them have Facebook reviews, for example. But a case study is very specific. It's like, I took this patient from here to here, and this is how I did it.
But that's how I wanted to, like, that's how I wanted them to feel.
But therapy is not an end goal.
I know.
Yeah.
But in my mind at the time, everything was a goal, and everything had to have a positive, perfectionist outcome.
Yeah.
It just did. Otherwise, it was a waste of time and experience.
That's fascinating,
right?
honestly.
So we need to do another podcast episode, because I think we're at time with this one.
I think we are, yes.
Because that was, food for thought.
Food for thought, big time. I hope you enjoyed that little deep dive into, and I hope it encourages you to.
I hope you enjoyed it, because at the start of this ep, you were like, done.
I did enjoy it very much.
On the verge, on the break. You were going to flip the lid.
Late.
But now?
I
so
need to
late.
pee. That's all I can think about right now. So
I know I'm top up, and then we shall continue.
Yes, we shall.
High fives.
Smashing it. Hopefully the
too slow.
Oh God.
I'm a child.
And on that note, we shall leave you there. Please like, subscribe, follow,
next week.
do all those things.
Bye.